Alrighty. Um, Today we're going to be talking about geomaxing a girlfriend. Yep, that is the thing. So it's been a while, but I'm just going to go through a few points that I've written down that I just want to talk about and address. So I geomaxed. I went from the US and I went to poor countries in Europe. Okay. That is the situation. Prior to doing that, I tried dating apps. I tried cold approach, went to bars. I tried social circle maxing, all of that in the US. I tried hobby maxing, and all while doing that, I was also lean maxing and losing weight. And essentially, I didn't get any dates, and on dating apps, the only matches that I got were with land whales. So it wasn't it wasn't meeting my wants or needs, I guess. It wasn't meeting what I was looking for. And I found that the women in the US, even if they were attractive, their personality qualities were not meeting my wants or needs or expectations really either. For example, it felt like a lot of the women were argumentative and politically charged, and it's just not something that I really genuinely want to deal with. I don't want that kind of person to be a partner with really at all. It's so I decided to geomax, and this was in part geomaxing for dating, and also just another factor was simply just going abroad and traveling for the first time. And so I've been abroad for like 6 months now, something like that. And I went to mainland Europe, and I went to about 4 different countries in mainland Europe. Now I'm in Eurasia, in a different country that's outside of the EU, because essentially I went with no visa, so there's only a limited amount of months that I can stay. So I had to leave. Okay, so that's kind of the preface, and to continue. I would probably need to go through my old videos myself to understand where my mind was at the time. But I don't really remember 100%, but I do know that I had essentially, um, basically alcoholism. I mean, every day I was drinking out of a liquor bottle, straight out of the bottle, without measuring, without just getting drunk when I could to forget be that I'm, basically touchless for years. You know, like really even a hug. I hadn't had that in years. Essentially like a girl, if that makes sense, right? I hugged my mom, and you can hear it in videos. You can hear the bottle and the sipping and all that. And on top of that, there was social isolation in the U.S. I was working from home, and I didn't really feel connected to the community at all. Really, I did have a social circle. I had a few actually. I had multiple social circles, but I didn't really feel that well connected with them. So it was difficult to have relationships with them, even platonically with guys, because it just didn't feel like there was much there. Um, yeah, and so the friend aspect for me, I can deal with that. I think that online is a good cope, and I have good friends online, or I can make new friends online if need be as well. So for me, that really, I was fully satisfied in that realm, even though most of them are online. And with family, I'm still satisfied with that. Every family has issues, obviously, and mine is no exception. But I feel like I'm more or less satisfied with the family stuff, and so I bring it up because the platonic friendship stuff and the family stuff was not what was driving me to be an alcoholic. Was not what was driving me to be daily suicidal. it was the relationship related stuff. So having no, prospects was really, really killing me inside because I felt like, if you look at some videos, for example, they're talking about the 6 6s. I felt like I had done damn near everything I possibly could to be a good candidate, based off these, hard metrics. The soft metrics are more complicated, like, for example, emotional intelligence. If you want to even consider that a real thing, let's like assume it's a real thing. I don't actually believe in it personally, but let's just like assume for argument's sake that emotional intelligence is real. Um, I think for that, those things, they're more difficult to measure. And so the hard things though, I felt like I was up to spec. I had decent income, decent body, um, and the other stuff. I mean, okay, it's like 6 inch something. Like, okay, I do have a bit of a micro dick, but that's neither here nor there because I don't believe in the dick pill. For example, if a girl has a dick, then essentially you've already won in that way. Unless you have a serious issue like a 1 inch Peter, there really won't be any issue. So, and this is coming from a guy with a micro, like well below average statistically Peter size. So, in my opinion, it doesn't matter. They can feel. I think the G spot is like 2 inches inside, so they can feel it, and there's no problem with that. Now, again, if she's seeing you naked, then you've already passed a lot of these tests, right? So it's not like the dick pill is irrelevant because she'll never see your Peter. If she doesn't find you attractive, if she doesn't think you're up to spec with the other stuff either. So now that all being said, I felt like I was up to spec. All of my friends that I talked to agreed they were really confused, as I was, at why I wasn't able to get any dating prospects. And, I was also, and, honestly, I really don't have an answer. We can talk about the macro issues. There's amazing channels that talk about these macro issues, right? And there's a lot of great content going over a lot of these statistics and demographic changes, as well as, socioeconomic changes, as well as political changes. And obviously, all those things are factors. It's not necessarily what I want to talk about right now, though. And so I felt like I more or less tried everything. Like, for example, social circle maxing. I tried many different kinds of social circle maxing. And to be completely honest, none of them really bared any fruits as far as dating prospects went. And I felt a bit disconnected friend wise. And so the interesting thing is that going to Europe, I actually feel like I have better social circle here. I feel more connected to people that I meet. I feel like they're friendlier. I feel like from a platonic friendship standpoint, it was a complete win. I feel like I have more friends than all of my friends in the U.S., in all the different states that I've lived in combined. I have more friends in Europe, multiple different friend groups, essentially. And I think that it has to do with potentially just the difference in culture and the less focus on just working. Because in the U.S., a lot of friends are just quite simply too busy to hang out because they're busy working. I think this is very common. And so, yeah, that's essentially where I was coming from, was like a severe depression. There was one time in particular that I did put a gun to. It was not loaded with a bullet, but I put it to my head and I did click the trigger. It was a 9mm to my temple, and I did feel a sense of relief after I did that. That was like a one-time thing though. This was after I went to a bar. I met a girl. I got really drunk. She ended up, and essentially, when we exchanged phone numbers, I never got like text or anything from her. So I was thinking that she might have been so intoxicated that she gave me the wrong number. And so I felt like I had this one opportunity and I just totally essentially missed out on it. And that, yeah, I was also very drunk. And so that happened. That was a while, maybe maybe a year ago, something like that at this point. And, outside of that, every single day I was depressed. I felt like there was really no meaning. Slowly over time, I grew more and more nihilistic, meaning that everything in life was meaningless, no meaning behind any of it, which that's like kind of adjacent to doomerism, essentially, I would say. But I think that there is some kind of knowledge within that where it's like maybe there is no necessarily meaning to this. However, you can essentially do whatever you want with your life and you can live it however you want to live. But the issue is that where I was going with it over time was there's no meaning to it. So essentially, nothing at all. And so, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I was at. But to be honest with you, I need to like rewatch some of my videos myself just to see where I was at mentally during that time. And so now I'm obviously in a different mental headspace. I can probably just quite simply tell from the tone of my voice alone that it's different. Okay, so I'm just gonna move on to the next thing. I had crippling depression, so and to be honest with you, while I was in Europe, it didn't go away. The only time that depression and suicidality had gone away was when I essentially was like dating a girl, but I felt that there was some promising. It was like a promising girl, meaning like there's some potential. So like our first date, never hear from them, doesn't really do much. But if I had like gone on a second date with a girl, or if I was like texting them after a first date, then I felt the depression was, and basically the difference was that like every day, all day, I was feeling essentially like nothing mattered. I wanted to be dead, and um, just some kind of depression, essentially, for long term. And like I said, the only cure was basically women. And when I had these dates that were going somewhat well, basically the thoughts of suicide, thoughts of everything being meaningless, just those thoughts in general went away. I just felt normal. I just felt like a normal human at that point. It's not that I was overjoyed with happiness. It's not that everything was easy and that I was hyper motivated to do everything. It's not that all my problems wash away. And it's not that the depression didn't come back, because it did come back. Um, for those brief periods of time when I had a promising dating prospect, the depression was non-existent. And I just drill down on this point because people, therapists, blue pillars, and normies, and even black pillars, there's going to be a lot of gaslighting when it comes to your mental problems and going through different things, obviously. So I can't really say for you, but at least for me, I felt like my life was more or less completely squared away, good, except for the only issue was that I didn't have an intimate partner. And so, people then tell me that, oh, I just need my friends, or oh, I need to get a dog, or oh, I need to find something else, like whatever, blah blah, passion or family, or just do. And I just want to drill on the fact that like I said, when I had not even actual GF, not even a girl, but quite simply a dating prospect that was somewhat promising. That alone completely got rid of the depression for obviously a brief time until that prospect, essentially ghosted me. And so it's kind of just strengthening my view against therapy, to be honest with you, if you're experiencing the similar issues of, lack of dating prospects, against therapy, um, mostly all of the blue pill BS. And the bottom line is that this is a valid solution to curing depression. Like getting dates or GF is a completely valid solution. And for me, it was really the only solution at all that helped. So again, I just want to drill on that point that um, it's not about getting a dog. It's not about getting closer to family. It's about intimacy with female, and you can't take away our reality in that way. You can't change. It doesn't matter how much blue pill cope garbage you say. You can't take away the reality that that's one of the most important things for a young man, probably even an old man. And yeah, essentially that depression, it came and went a few times because basically I did like dates with these girls in Europe. That for the most part, I met them on dating apps, but I did also do cold approach and met them doing cold approach or doing like group activity, for example. And yeah, like I said, it would be there, but if something was going somewhat decent, there was some kind of hope that it would go away. And that's just like boom, okay, I know the problem, If that's happening, then I can see the problem. It's so obvious. And so after I met this girl, this most recent girl that now officially I'm, being BFGF. Pretty much since I met her, I don't remember exactly if it was after the first date or after the texting after the first date or second date, but basically at that point, ever since then, I haven't had any suicidal thoughts whatsoever, not even one day at all. So it's completely gone, completely cured. And yeah, I mean, it's just really interesting, I guess. It's just interesting. And I don't know, I don't really have any other points to go for that, except that, this is important. And if you have the means to fix this issue for yourself, then it might help in this realm. It might help cure your depression. The only issue is that I don't know what would happen if, again, if we end up splitting things off, like, I don't know what kind of mental place I'll be in. And, I think that being overly dependent on another person in life is probably not a good thing. But at the same time, there's nothing I can really do to control that. I think that my brain is wired in a way that I require this sort of thing. And it's going to come from one person, or one girl. And that's just how my brain's wired. And I've been through a lot of language regarding this stuff. So it will be, probably horrific if things ended. But at least I know things do end that, it's not completely over for me. I can simply geomax again, I guess. Although, to be honest with you, the journey is highly 20 to 30 dates. It was absolutely exhausting, completely exhausting, mentally exhausting. It was a massive waste of time. Most of the time I felt like I was talking to like a brick wall. The girl was so boring. There's no connection. And on top of that, obviously, I'm wasting a shit ton. And so, um, yeah, that's a really important point that I just wanted to go over. So the depression and suicidality are gone, which I mean, that's just really amazing. You know, it's just it's just mind blowing. It's and so I feel like a normal human being again. I mean, I guess this is a sense of feeling happy. So I don't know what feeling happy is. I don't know if it's a necessarily, or I don't know really what happiness even is or what it means. But what I can say is I don't feel depression at all. And so for me, that is absolutely amazing to be in this mental state. So for me, you know, having the GF and basically all the issues that come with that, all the difficulties, the complications, and all the price tag of having a GF and time investment of having a GF. Like, to be completely honest with you, I understand the arguments against all of these things. I understand from a MGTOW perspective and an MRA perspective, all the issues that come with this. However, when the rubber meets the road, essentially it comes down to, do I want to have a GF or do I want to be dead? Because eventually it'll get to that point. I'll either do the act, you know, abruptly, which I was thinking about, or I will essentially drink myself to death. So yeah, and I was thinking, you know, things weren't going well with dating in Europe, to be quite honest with you. And so I was thinking, okay, when I just get back to the US, I'll just go and get my gun and then just call it a day. And, you know, I tried. There's not really much else at this point. Like, I mean, yeah, sure, I could go to, for example, South America or Southeast Asia, but to be honest with you, I don't really find those women that appealing or attractive, and I don't think I would be happy with that. I feel like they would cause more pain in my life, and I've dated long time ago. I've dated because of girls, like Hispanic girls, and I just don't really enjoy it. And I'm not that attracted to Asian girls, so references, and you know, take that as you will. And obviously the meme is that, you know, every guy wants a white GF, whatever, and I'm no exception. But yes, getting at that. So okay, maybe I have very high standards, possibly, but um, from the, you know, just in general, I felt dating white girls just from like a personality standpoint, to be honest with you. And so I just find Latinas a little bit too spicy, and I find Asians, I find it a bit creepy how like into me they are. It's very off-putting, and I have never dated one, but I've met like over the years I've met Asian women that have been like they like ask me so many questions and stuff like that with like the white fever thing, and I just find it very very off-putting. Um, Yeah, so that's kind of why. Nothing really else. But yeah, I find them attractive, of course. But yeah, I don't really do the one night stand stuff, and I don't really feel the impulse to do that. Which this is just a completely other. I'm not get into that because it's highly personal. And yeah, maybe you can say, "Oh, fake cell," but yeah, it's fine. I am a fake cell. I really don't care. The bottom line is I was at the edge, sometimes going over the edge. And, you know, maybe some of you can relate to this. Not everyone is like a sub. Obviously, there's, I would say, over majority of people are normally in looks, somewhere plus or minus. And so I think plenty of guys relate to this stuff. Okay, yeah, and another good point regarding the kind of suicidality is that I felt like there really was no reason to live, but now having a GF, now I essentially have this weird sense of like a reason to live. Like, oh, okay, like now I can do stuff for not only me, but I can do stuff for her, and I can potentially do stuff for, if things go well, obviously, assuming things go well, our potential children. And that just like turns everything upside down, basically. I mean, genuinely, it makes me like, okay, yeah, I see the point in working now. I see the point in working out now. being healthy now because I want to be healthy for my kids. And I see the point in, doing fun and cool things now because it's cool. I don't know. It's just the entire perspective is different. Gives me a reason to live. It gives me a reason to do things. It gives me a reason to just, yeah, just be alive. And I don't know. There's not much I can really say about that, but I just wanted to touch on that. Is kind of part of the journey. So the brutal cost of online dating. So I spent somewhere in the realm of $1,000 to $1,500 on online dating. Bumble, Tinder. I bought Hinge. I bought Badoo, and I think those are the four I've tried. I think that most of the are pretty much antiquated and niched, and it's a bit weird. I feel like. So I haven't tried any other apps. I would say in the U.S., Tinder is useless. Bumble is basically useless in the U.S. It's okay. It's like in the middle. It's like meh. Hinge, I think, is top dog, top tier in the U.S. I think overseas, Tinder is absolutely number one, amazing. I think Bumble and Hinge are completely useless because there's no users. And then there's a different app as an international dating app. And I think that one is also really good and has a lot of people using that. And I don't really see the point in any other apps other than those. Let's say if you're in the US, pay for HingeX Premium. And if you're overseas, pay for Tinder and pay for Badoo. But yeah, so the online dating. So not only is there financial cost from just purchasing the dating apps, for example, with Boosts, for example, with a premium membership, for example. Um, there's also other costs with that. And so before I move to the next thing, maybe some of you are in this mind frame of, oh, never pay a dating app money because they're an evil company and they don't deserve money. They deserve to be gone. Well, the issue with that is that it doesn't matter what your view is on dating apps. It doesn't matter what your view is on the black pill. It doesn't matter what your view is on dating apps because they completely have the entire dating market and the entire dating world completely. So cold approach basically is non-existent at this point. Women are annoyed and disgusted when you do cold approach. Going to bars and clubs is irrelevant because women go to bars and clubs in groups to just hang out with their female friends, not and purposefully, quite literally, not for men at these places. Other than that, there's like these kinds of you can do obviously social circle, hobby maxing stuff like that, and that's another viable option. I'm not saying 100% cold approach doesn't work. I'm not saying 100% bar stuff like that doesn't work, but I mean. It's just the law of diminishing returns is strong those things nowadays. And then in stark comparison, online dating and potentially social media, you could say TikTok, Instagram accounts, Snapchat maybe, but for sure Instagram is a dating platform in and of itself as well. Have I used it for this? No, I don't use Instagram, but I've talked to a few guys, not that many, but a couple, that said they've used Instagram, they DM girls. Sometimes girls respond, then they respond again. They go back and forth, like some pictures or something. And do the essentially Instagram pickup in that way. Then they obviously meet up. They have their curated profile, things like that. And it's also a valid way of doing it. I think that takes a lot of work, and that's fine. All of this stuff takes a lot of work, right? So I think if you enjoy social media and are willing to do stuff like that, then I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. For me, I got highly addicted to social media and stopped using it maybe 5 to 10 years ago, as far as Instagram goes, for example. And I just quite simply don't use it anymore. So I'm not interested in so maybe you could say I haven't tried everything because I hadn't tried that. But maybe if I didn't completely max when I got, I would consider doing Instagram pickup if I didn't like find a GF here. But neither here nor there. basically dating apps and the brutal cost of dating apps. So you might be against paying dating apps, but the bottom line, what I'm trying to get to is that they have a stronghold or a strangle on the dating market. Women don't want to be cold approached. They don't eat down at bars. They don't want a free drink with a drug in it anymore. Even while they're at parties and bars, they're swiping on Tinder. So the bottom line is, you meet your customer where they're at, right? So, for example, if you're doing cold calling, you want to call them. If you're doing door to door, then you go to their door. If in sales, list of sales, if you want to find women, you have to go where they are, and they're on dating apps. Women that are open to dating are on dating apps. There's, especially in the U.S., it's complete dumpster fire. Obviously, because you have OnlyFans. People, which is complete garbage. You have people that are just there for boosting their Instagram profile followers, which is complete garbage. You have trannies on there, garbage. And then you have, what's it called? Like obese whales, which is garbage. So, I mean, it's complete ass, to be honest with you. Hinge is definitely the best, for sure. And the reason I believe Hinge to be the best is because they limit the amount of daily free swipes that men have. Basically, Tinder, maybe they give you 50 likes. Bumble, maybe they give you 20. Hinge, they give you like 5. And so if you're not paying, you're not really going to find girls. So women get way, way, way less likes on Hinge because many, many guys don't pay. Potentially you where it's like it's an evil company. I'm not going to pay, $50 a month or something, 15, whatever it is, and it's more expensive than there's less high price. And so this is why I believe it to be better because less men are willing to pay, which means that there's also a competition standpoint. Women have less likes, so it's gonna be more of a normal experience. Yes, they get a shit ton of likes still, but it's not on Tinder. It's like somebody can't even comprehend it. But on Hinge, I think it's going to be less. And when I was working a service industry job, and people would say, "Oh yeah, I'm going on this date," and pretty much every time they would say, "Yes, it's Hinge," and I never really heard Bumble or Tinder really at all over years. So I think that it is now. Yeah. So my view on this, if you're not willing to pay for a dating app, then I would just say best of luck. Point blank, it makes okay. So your SMV is not going to be determined by your profile because even GigaChat pays for dating apps. I've met GigaChat Thundercock that's paying for Tinder Platinum, right? And so imagine how many profiles you're under in the stack. And so if you know what a stack means, it means like the best on top, and then it goes one by one. You're so far down the stack, women will never even see your profile. So it actually doesn't matter how optimized your profile is. If you're like not a GigaChat, it's a free account, you're never actually going to be seen in the stack because women don't swipe that much. They don't swipe nearly as much as guys. They're going to be way more lazy. Maybe they swipe over the course of a week or a month, 100, 1,000. I don't know the number. But if you're placed on the stack 1,200 in your local area, it doesn't matter. They won't even see your profile. It's not that you won't get a dislike or a like. You won't get anything. And so this is why, unfortunately, to pay for these apps, you have to pay to point blank increase your algorithm, increase your ranking in that stack. That's what I see. How do you get to be number one in the stack? And that's the only competition that matters. 1, that means optimizing your photos. 2, that means paying for the app. That's literally irrelevant. I put stuff in my bio, and it ruins my rating because the more information you give, the more reasons they have to not swipe on you, which lowers your overall rating. If you do the bare minimum, you do your height, if you're 6 foot or above, something like that, and that's if you're below 6 foot, maybe. Um, that's really all. You definitely don't want to overindulge on a bio what you're looking for. This because they don't match a single quality of something like that, then they're going to swipe off against you, and it's going to hurt your ranking. Um, that's theories over the course of this year, 2 years. So I would just say, trust me, bro, science on this stuff. Yourself. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of good content as far as testing out the dating app algos, stuff like that. But I think that's what it comes down to, is what I just said there. Now, the other side of the brutal cost of dating apps is that the buck doesn't stop with paying for the monthly subscription. Whether you do the free one or the paid one, I don't really care. Okay? I did the paid one. You don't have to spend all that money as I did, because I spent all that money to test the different apps, okay, and to see which one was best. There's very good information about this, which one's the best. Nobody here is here to tell you. So I'm here to tell you Hinge is the best in the US. Don't pay for it. And overseas, you have Tinder and you have Badoo. They're both very good. So pay for those. Don't waste money on Bumble, in my personal opinion. Don't waste Tinder in the US. Don't waste money on Hinge in Europe. Anyway, so the other side of this coin, though, is also the premium for Tinder. You can buy boosts and super likes. I would say that you can definitely buy boosts. I think they are a week's worth of likes within one day, essentially, if you double boosted twice. And I think that is also worth it. Yeah, it does cost money. So such is life. And so, okay, the other coin flip, whatever, I don't know, the roses stuff, I think it's all garbage. The super like rose stuff is garbage. Honestly, I've had people just unmatch on a super like. It's like, what's the point? So it comes down to just boosting your rank in the stack, and either they swipe or not. That's what I'm down to. Anyway, I keep going on tangents, but the other brutal cost of online dating is that, for example, let's say you get 0 likes, 0 matches. Yeah, it sucks, and it makes me want to rope max. The other side of it is that when you actually get matches and likes, if you do end up geomaxing, that is, you have to go on dates with real people. That's a huge issue. The amount of time it takes to do that is insane. If you're busy, then you have to literally time block hours and hours to date these women that will never message you again. The majority, 80-90%, I would say, completely ghost you. There's a few that maybe something is actually going well with them. But the overwhelming majority of these women will just completely ghost you after the first date. And hours of your time going on dates every single week. I was doing an average like 2 dates a week. And it's just exhausting, really. I mean, you have to clean your entire house. You have to freshen up yourself as a human. You have to, get transit or walk to the location and wait. You do the date, which takes potentially an hour, a couple hours. Then you have to go home. And it's just a lot of time. It's like 4 hours, for one day. To clean, get ready, get there, have the date for 2 hours, get back. And again, it's just a lot of time, and it's a lot of time. And so for me, that's the biggest issue, is the amount of time I was spending on these dates. It was insane, and it was exhausting. And for them to not turn out well was totally disheartening as well, as you would imagine. And then obviously the additional brutal cost of cost. So I'm not a guy that would go Dutch personally. I find it emasculating. You might disagree with me on that, and that's fine, but I find it emasculating for women to pay. And so this is I'm paying for the drinks, I'm paying for the food, whatever it is. And, things are cheaper in Europe, potentially, depending on where you're at. But at the same time, most of them never hear from them again, wasting all this money. You know, that also kind of adds up. I mean, I would say it's not a big deal because I'm doing well financially, but if you're not doing well financially, it's going to be a huge strain on you. You're going to be wasting, you're going to be hemorrhaging money, you're going to be burning money. Burning money. That is what it feels like, burning money. So if you don't have additional funds, then you quite literally can't date because you're going to go again, and you're going to feel cheated. You spend money on their food, but you know at the end of the day, it's not even a foodie. It's not even potentially it wasn't it was a date, and she quite simply didn't want to see you again, and that's just life. But the issue is that you have to pay, and you know maybe you're a guy that does. Yeah, you're still paying for your half. Ain't no way a girl's paying for 100%. Okay, so you're still paying for something, and you know that potentially could be a huge issue if you're not doing exceptionally well financially. So it's that makes things very difficult as well. So the time investment is absolutely insane. The amount of messaging as well. I mean, it's basically like a part-time job. And I just eventually I got so lazy with it, just copy paste the same response to every single girl. Just one pickup line, and that's it. And then I would just go for the close, and that's it. And if they didn't respond, I would never even double text. So yeah, if they never respond, if they did like a like, for example, if they liked my message and never sent a message, I would never respond because there's no point. She's not willing to play, hit the ball back over the fence per se. If she's not willing to play tennis with you as far as texting, there's no point. You can't force her to play you. You can't like force her to want to message you back. So I don't see the point in that double texting stuff. Sometimes it can be double texting or even quadruple texting, depending on the context. But if she's not responding, then just, you just don't message. Because yeah. And then there was a few times I would go back to my old matches and send an additional response and then get a message. But I get away from doing that. You know what I mean? So the dynamic is obviously not good when you do stuff like that. So it's kind of also pointless, I feel like. I'm not saying it couldn't. Basically, the best is a fresh new match, fresh new prospect. You do the line. It's a one message back and forth for maybe 10 messages. Actually, you set a date. Honestly, I stopped asking girls for their number, and I just set the date on the app because there was such a issue with getting this number, going to this other app, then texting them, and it adds time, it adds complexity, it adds blockades and issues. And I set it on the app, and I don't even give a damn about their number. If the date goes well, then sure, we'll exchange numbers after the date. But if not, then I don't need a number, because getting a number from women doesn't mean anything nowadays anymore as it used to, right? Because they just block you, they report you, they ghost you. So it's completely in contact with them on the dating app. So just set the date on the dating app and meet them. If they never show up, such is life. That happens. So yeah, I mean, brutal cost of online dating, it's very high and it's very treacherous, and it's very disheartening as well. I mean, there's one time I got catfished by this girl. Her pictures, I mean, she looked kind of like, honestly, like a model in her online dating pictures. In IRL, she had like a double chin, and I'm just like, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't like she was so unattractive, but like the dichotomy difference between what she looked like in her pictures versus reality was so different. It was just too off-putting for me to want to continue this date. I felt like I was being catfished. I couldn't lie to. And so I just was like, look, like, this isn't going to work out. You don't look anything like your pictures. Like, and then, we hugged or whatever. And the entire date. Cue Giga Chad music at that point, right? Bow, 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 bow. Okay, so the other thing I would say regarding having a GF is and I kind of already mentioned this, enjoyment of simple things and doing things in life. So on this journey that I've gone on so far, like traveling to different countries and stuff like that, I find everything, the world, to be gray and boring, for the most part, blasé to me, if that makes sense. And the difference with doing it with a girl is so dramatic. Um, her 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 responses are what make everything. Okay, her responses are really what make everything vibrant in life now. Like, I could go to a restaurant, or go to a restaurant with her, and then, the time spent is just so much better. The world is vibrant. Like, we're eating food, cracking jokes. Just quite simply walking down the sidewalk. If someone trips, then we have a laugh together, for example. Or if we see something, um, those things, I mean, being completely alone, that stuff doesn't exist. Everything is dull gray, and having an intimate partner. And I think I felt somewhat kind of similar with this, with like just platonic friends as well. Like, having friends still would like, it would still make things more enjoyable, but the intimate partner really changes everything, because just like doing it at all, and then seeing her reaction, seeing her get excited about something, that for me, it's like, okay, cool, yeah, like, the skyline, it looks cool. But, oh, like making all these, feminine reaction sounds, stuff like that. I mean, it's really it's just mind blowing how you go from completely dull and gray to completely vibrant just from one simple change. And it's really, really interesting. And also, I'm finding like just general activities fun. Like, I was bored of kind of traveling, looking at buildings and stuff, but now like doing it with her, everything's much more enjoyable. Um, okay, so moving on. Um, so okay, now I'm going to talk about kind of the mindset changes that I feel recently. So, um, so I guess we've been dating for like a month now or so, and now, all of a sudden, just naturally, I feel like a motivation to work out. So I did a workout today. I haven't worked out in like 3 months, but other than that, I haven't really done much. I did actually. There was a couple days I did push-ups while I was like still kind of the first few weeks of dating her, but now I'm like actually a real workout routine, and be consistent and committed. And again, it's just like I have a reason to live. Working out. If I'm going to be dead in a couple months or something like that, like, I don't care about working out. Like, who cares? I'm just going to drink this alcohol, sit on my ass, like a shit. But now it's like, okay, I mean, now I have a reason to work out. I have a reason to be healthy, and I have a reason to, get strong. Yeah, so I have a real motivation to work out. I also, um, have a motivation to lean max and get more attractive and leaner um, where I feel like I have a good physique, but I just don't have a six pack. But now I feel like, okay, now I have a real reason to like actually like get this six pack. It's not easy to get a six pack, okay? Like, really though, I have a good physique, but I don't have a six pack, and I would like one, but it's so difficult. It's difficult because I'm essentially a depressed alcoholic, and the amount of calories in alcohol is insane. I'm drinking like 500, even more, I don't know, extra calories every single day. I mean, that's huge. And I think that's one of the major parts of, why I'm unable to get this back, is because that's like just a ton of calories. Um, And so on that note, I also have a motivation to quit alcohol. And it's not like with this, it's not like a motivation in and of itself. It's actually just like I don't even feel the desire or the need to drink as much. Um, so the first few weeks, maybe after the third or fourth day, like things were going really well in that way. I didn't drink for like a day. I didn't drink like in the afternoon or something, and then the next day I didn't drink at all. And it wasn't like, oh wow, like I'm so hyped up, David Goggins, stay hard. Like, I was just like, I quite simply didn't feel the need to or desire to drink alcohol. And then what I noticed is I started getting a migraine. And so basically, just like mild symptoms of alcoholism. And so that's when I was like, okay, wow, like I'm really natural alcoholic, for sure. And so then I started like kind of slowing, like managing my alcohol intake and like measuring it with to make sure that, um, just to manage it a little more. I think if I manage it, then it won't be overly excessive at least. Um, and yeah, so like just again, I didn't have the desire to drink. Now, unfortunately, um, since I have it's not really that easy to just cold turkey quit. But I think that I've certainly lessened the amount of a few weeks, and I feel less desire overall. Um, and I finished all my alcohol, so I don't really plan on buying more um, at the house, at least. I don't think. But today is kind of my if I get any headache withdrawals, and if not, then I might just go cold turkey, and we'll see how that goes. I don't think I'm taking and stuff like that, and so I'm not too worried about the health stuff. But the headache, I'd rather not have to deal with. So if I get a headache, I'll probably try to just slowly limit my intake, if that makes sense. Um, but yeah, pretty much all week I was drinking a small amount of alcohol, like every day, pretty much. But it wasn't really enough to actually get me to feel much of anything. And then since I get drunk, and I finished my alcohol. But yeah, but now I don't have any, so we'll see if I can. And then another thing is now I feel like a real sense of a reason to actually like work harder and be more successful. Whereas previously, I was like doing it just to do it, just to pass time, just to like have something to do with my life as a cope, like instead of video games or some other hobby, might as well just work. I enjoy it to some extent, so might as well just do that. But no, I actually okay, it's important to work and be successful, and this is a real future that potentially could actually go somewhere, and to my future children to be as successful as possible. And I don't know, I just kind of have that thought in my head. I don't know what per se. I was already a pretty hardworking guy, so I don't see it changing much. But it's just nice to have it have some sort of meaning now, if that makes sense. Not that much of a change. Um, I don't know. I have a note here for travel adventures, but it's not really something that I really feel about now. But yeah, I mean, basically, I went to mainland Europe, and now I'm in like a Eurasian country, and yeah, it's been a great experience. I would just recommend everyone. I think it's pretty solid. Definitely, a good Hail Mary before road maxing. Like, if you want to road max, um, I can understand it. I would just say maybe try geomaxing before you do that, because if you quite literally have nothing to lose, if it quite literally means either, why not, instead of death, why not push death back a few months or something and just geomax? And then, if it doesn't work out, then sure. You know what I mean? Sure. Um, do what you got to do. Okay. The next thing I have, and I only have a few more points left, basically more about like relationship stuff, kind of, but I think I kind of touched on this actually already a little bit, but basically the women are one, they're way more attractive, so they're all very they're way more feminine, so they are less politically charged, they dress like a woman, they act more like a woman, they appreciate masculinity, um, and they're more pleasant to be around. They're not obese. A lot of them do smoke cigarettes, which I don't like personally. Um, and there is definitely a bit of a language barrier, which I think was like probably the number one issue with dating abroad is that the only language I know is English, so the girl needs to be able to speak English for us to date. And the issue is that they could understand. It would range. Some of them couldn't understand as much, but we had to use like Google Translate. And honestly, I saw this like stupid TikTok video of Andrew Tate one time saying like, you can date women all across the world with no problem. All you have to do is use Google Translate, and you could talk to any woman, and then you could bridge them up and have women all across the world. And to be honest with you, it's just straight up not true. It's just not true at all. So here's why: the women could, let's just say everything that I'm saying, which they couldn't understand everything, but if there was an issue, I could just explain what that word meant, for example. But the issue comes down to the woman had the inability to express herself. And so, for example, if I'm like saying like, oh, how and she is like good. She can't say like what she did. She can't express like how she was feeling, stuff like that. She won't be able to bond with you. She won't be able to express herself to you in the language. And so that's the issue. If they don't know English well enough, like maybe B2, they need to know it well enough where they can express themselves, or it won't work out. Or you need to know their native language, which I mean that would take 24 months to learn some other language, and then you're putting all your chips in one basket at that point for to get our GF. That's like a huge upfront cost for a massive risk. So finding a girl that spoke English is definitely, if you are willing to learn another language, I think that's, I think if you learn another language, then I think the dating becomes easier. So I think, that if you want to put in the work to learn the language, which it's very difficult to learn languages, and I think that's a valid way to geomax for sure. But yeah, if the girl doesn't speak the language, language in common where she's good enough, then there's no point in going on a date. I just started asking like, hey, can you speak English well enough to get a drink with me? So, or if they say, oh, I would have to use Google Translate, and it's like, okay, at this point, no problem. You can do it. I did go on a few. It's like, okay, cool, we can try it out. And, after the first date, they just ghost you, because they're not going to feel anything. They're not going to feel a sense of attraction if they just sit there and listen to what you have to say. Because women like to talk more. So if she can't talk, if she can't express herself, that's never going to work out. Let's be honest. Okay, the next thing I want to touch on is stereotype. I mean, so many guys have asked me about this, like, oh, how doing? Oh, she's not a gold digger. This and the other. And to be honest with you, I think it's actually more rare than you think. I can't be certain, but I honestly think that not a single girl I went on a date with was a gold digger. I think that potentially there could have been some foodies though, where it's like, okay, I want to go dinner or something like that. I think potentially that could be true, but as far as like a gold digger, I don't think so. And my philosophy on this is like, you can only take you can only be taken advantage of the amount of money that you're willing to give away, right? And so if it's something you know, extraordinary, um then obviously you just say no. You quite simply just tell her no. So if a girl after 1 or 2 weeks of talking to her, she's like, "Oh, I want her Hermes back, 510, 510K," you just tell her no and walk away. I mean, that's it. So this notion of like, oh, every girl's a gold digger, like, ridiculous. And I think it's also ignorant in the way that it's coming from a place of lack of understanding. These women out here are actually less concerned about money than women in the US. So I think the notion is false for the most part. And I do think that, obviously there is a sense of, you know, the passport stuff, like a passport hunter one thing, and stuff like that. And potentially like a risk of divorce if you bring it to the US. Like all these things are true and all that. But I think that, there's always risk in dating. If you go domestically in the same country, there's still a risk of divorce and all that other stuff. So, essentially just, count your cards and choose decisions, choose the risk based off your risk tolerance. Just make your own decisions and obviously vet women and and give it enough time because over a long enough time horizon, all people show their true colors if that makes sense. So you can lies and BS for so long, right? And so I think that over time, if you're unsure, you can become sure over time as to what you are. So I think the gold digger stereotype is honestly just kind of irrelevant, unless you're just a complete idiot, like just don't buy women gifts, exorbitant gifts. Okay, like it's not really that complicated. Okay, let me think. So I know about our relationship dynamic, but I don't really see the point in talking too much about that right now. But the issue, maybe there's one thing I'd wanted to mention. Due to like various logistic issues, unfortunately, we're like long distance now, and so I don't know. Just I guess wish me luck with this long distance stuff. I'm not sure how things will play out, but I'm hoping for the best, and hopefully I can see her again in like a month or like at least something like that. And yeah, it's pretty difficult, but there's that. But it's okay because it's just that well for me to keep going and that's fine. Um, and I guess the last thing I just want to go over is essentially the prep before doing. So money maxing where I was making, 6 figures essentially. So HVM, high value male, basically whatever. So if you're what's the word? If you're like a neat, um, yeah, there's no point. Like you're just if you're a neat, I respect that decision of life, but you can't expect dating prospects if you're neat. It's just you can't even take care of yourself. There's no way to take care of a second person and potentially children on top of that. So why would any woman, wants to have children, date you? They would. So I think that if you're neat, I respect that decision. However, you have no room to complain. Um, and I'm not saying the job market is easy, but obviously with the connotation of neat, that means you personally checked out. So if you're not making enough money to be self-sufficient, then you can't date. You need to be one self-sufficient and two have additional If you don't have that, then you're not ready to date. And so you got to figure it out. And that's the bottom line. Or you could also take the thing of saving up money and then taking a trip, doing something like that. I think that's also something. The next point is lean max. So if you're overweight, again, I mean, what I found when I was overweight, I was or something like that. Like I was 250. Like I was essentially an invisible human being. Like I didn't exist. Um, so instead of surgery maxing, how about you do some lean maxing? Because your face shape changes dramatically. You look like a different human being when you're lean. So if you're not fit and in a great physique, then again, hate to say it, but again, there's no like having prospects because you know this that women are highly physical. So if you don't have a good body and all that, if you're not lean, then you need to just simply get lean. So I think starvation maxing and like eating cabbage soup every day, which is super low calories, and I was eating like canned vegetables out of a can, and I was doing water fasting and stuff like that, or you know, um, yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, if you're overweight, it's not acceptable to be overweight. And I don't really care about people go back and forth about, oh, I know this guy who's fat that has a girlfriend. Like, yeah, I really don't care actually at all because if I don't have a girlfriend, that's all that really matters. You can't be fat is the bottom line. It's unacceptable to be fat if you're trying to date. Um, so that's the funny max and you have to lean max. And if you're not up to spec on those two things, don't geomax. There's no point in geomaxing. Yes. And lean max. Then when you have a good body and you have additional funds, then geomax. That's all I would say about that. So, gosh, okay, it's been a bit of a video, and I don't know what the response to this will be, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know how much we're not doing on this channel really that much anymore, because essentially I had been using it to help curb my depression. Because live videos and talking about these problems that I didn't have anyone to talk to about, it was essentially a form of therapy, a form of journal therapy. And if I'm not really depressed anymore, then I don't really have as much of a purpose to make these videos as much. So maybe I become super depressed, and maybe I'll get back on it. But yeah, I'm not that motivated to make more videos that much anymore. So yeah, that's pretty much it.